Title: Terrifying Night in Sublet Cabin, Intruder Encounter and Mysterious Neighbor. I began subletting a cabin rental house for a couple of months in 2023 when my dad and I were having issues and I needed to move out. The actual renter of the apartment was facing personal problems, leading him to vacate the apartment. I'll just refer to him as my landlord for simplicity. The cabin, an entire unit rental, was paid on a month-to-month basis, which was ideal for my temporarily difficult situation. It had 2 floors, with a small kitchen, a decent-sized living space, and 1 bedroom that required climbing a small flight of stairs to access. There was a quirky hatch-type door leading to the upstairs bedroom. I had already been there for a month and had paid for the second month's rent. The cabin sat at the end of a dirt road, surrounded by similarly sized cabin-type houses. One house appeared vacant, as I never saw any cars parked out front or lights on. I worked long 12-hour shifts, and when I got home I was completely exhausted, usually going straight to bed and watching TV until I fell asleep. This particular night was no different. I got home, made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a protein shake as my late-night dinner, then went to bed. I always made sure to shut the door in the floor every night. I find myself uncomfortable at night with the entrance to my bedroom open. Something about it makes me feel exposed or vulnerable. Though this door didn't have a lock, the cabin was designed for one person or a couple. I was watching TV in bed when I heard it. A voice from down below saying, "Who's up there?" Instantly, my heart stopped, and I shot up to an upright position. It sounded like it came from inside the house, but it could have also come from outside. I grabbed the TV remote to turn off the TV and crawled over to look at the circular window above the bed. I didn't see anyone outside, but it was very dark. I said, "Who's there?" The deafening silence that followed led me to get off the bed and put my hand on the handle to the door. I lifted the door and looked down the staircase. I actually said my dad's name, thinking maybe he had come over, but there was no response. I walked downstairs, extremely scared, and flicked on the first light switch I passed. The living room lit up as expected, but there was no one down there. I still chalked it up to someone from outside. I turned on the front outside light and looked out the windows, but there was no one in front. By this point, I was really confused. I turned off the living room light and climbed the stairs back to my bedroom, shutting the door in the floor. I was pretty awake now, so I turned the TV back on. Not even 5 minutes later, I heard pounds on the bedroom door from below. They sounded angry, or like they were trying to scare me. If there was any doubt before, this confirmed it. Someone was in the house. I left the TV on this time and just stayed completely motionless because I was genuinely too scared to move an inch. The scariest part was that whoever was down there could easily open the door as there was no lock. I lay silent for about 20 minutes, and once I felt comfortable enough to move, I looked for my phone. Of course, it wasn't on my nightstand. I couldn't find it. I may have left it downstairs, so I opened the door of my bedroom and looked down the stairs. With the constantly changing light from the TV screen, I could see just a little bit down the stairs to the living room, so I went down quietly. When at the bottom, instead of turning on any lights, I ran out the back door barefoot and went to the nearest neighbor's house, where I knew people lived and saw their lights were on. I knocked on the door a bunch of times, and then I noticed someone at the window next to the door looking at me. I didn't know how long they had been watching me. I yelled through the glass explaining what happened, that I'm their neighbor and that I need a phone to call the police. They definitely heard me, but they just stared at me. It was unsettling, and I started to back away from the door as I realized they weren't even responding to me, just creepily watching me. I looked around the road and saw no other houses in the distance with their lights on. Momentarily, I had a thought. What if that guy had something to do with it? I went back to my rental through the back door, which was closed just like I left it. I went inside, locked it, and turned on every light in the tiny house. I looked not only for an intruder, but my phone downstairs, and I finally found my phone in my car when I thought to look there. I was so tired earlier that I left it in the center console. I went back inside. The TV was still on in the bedroom. I climbed the stairs, and when I got to the top, I saw someone sitting on my bed staring at the TV. It was a man. I screamed, and he turned his head slowly to look at me. And before I could see anything else, I ran back down the stairs and outside. Now, with my phone, I called 911 and sat in my locked car watching the house. When a police car arrived, the officer checked the house and upstairs room after I told him that I saw someone, most likely the intruder, walk away into the woods. He asked if I had any other places to stay that night, so I swallowed my pride and went back to my dad's house for the night after packing some of my important stuff. I returned to the house the next day and stayed another night, then collected the rest of my stuff. Luckily, the landlord agreed to giving me some of my money back. He asked me what the man looked like, and after that, he didn't ask any more questions, which, to me, is pretty sus. Something was unusual in that situation, from that creepy neighbor ignoring me to the landlord's random urgent need to move out, to someone possibly watching, waiting, biding their time in the shadows. The pieces of the puzzle began to click into place with a chilling clarity that sent shivers down my spine. The creepy neighbor's unsettling behavior, the landlord's sudden urgency to vacate the premises, and now, the mysterious intruder who seemed to materialize out of thin air, all connected by a thread of malevolence that stretched back into the depths of the cabin's murky past. As I delved deeper into the history of the cabin, I uncovered whispers of dark deeds and unspeakable horrors that had plagued its walls for generations. Stories of restless spirits and vengeful entities that prowled the night, searching for unsuspecting victims to ensnare in their web of terror. But amidst the tales of woe and despair, one name stood out like a beacon of dread: the Shadow Man, a malevolent entity said to lurk in the darkest corners of the cabin, feeding on the fear of those foolish enough to cross its path. With a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, I realized that I had unwittingly stumbled into the clutches of something far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. And now, as the shadows lengthened and the darkness threatened to consume me whole, I knew that my only chance of survival lay in confronting the horrors that lurked within the heart of the cabin itself. Armed with nothing but my wits and a sense of impending doom, I resolved to uncover the truth behind the cabin's dark past and put an end to the reign of terror once and for all. But little did I know that in delving into the depths of darkness, I would awaken forces beyond my comprehension, unleashing a nightmare that would haunt me until the end of days.